with another video. If this is your very first time seeing my face landing on this channel, I want to say welcome. Glad that you are here. This is a channel where my faith, family, and social work intersects. So if any of those things sound like things that you are interested in, subscribe, join the fam, watch this video, and share it with your tribe. If you have been rocking with me for a little months now, how many months? Probably like, I want to say 8 or 9 months. Thank you so much for rocking with Ray. You guys don't understand how much it means to me that I'm able to curate content for you guys and put it on this platform and in this space. I have gotten so much feedback, especially from my video about how I wrote my personal statement and how you can write your personal statement if you are going into graduate school, specifically a Master's of Social Work program. And I'm gonna link that in the cards because that seemed to be the video that everyone gravitates to. So if you've been rocking with me, I want to say welcome. Thank you. Happy New Year. I know that you guys saw my happy birthday video that went up, and it was 33 things that I have learned in my life thus far, and I shared it with you guys. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'm gonna link it in the cards for you guys to check it out. But guys, this video is all about social work. So this video is for my social workers, my social work students, my aspiring social workers, those who think they want to be a social worker and don't really know a lot of information, and you want to get a little bit more feedback, or you want to know where to start, what to do. This video is for you. So if you want to know what it means by definition to be a social worker, types of social workers, jobs that you can get, and anything in between, stay tuned. So guys, for this video, I did a little bit of research because I wanted to make sure that I was giving you guys up-to-date information as well as my own personal experiences. So I will be reading some things from my handy dandy notes, and I also have additional resources that I will provide for you guys down in the description box. If you hear my kids, I'm sorry, they're home from school and I just needed to get this video recorded for you guys. So let's get into it. As everyone here knows, I am a social work student. I am currently in my second and final semester of graduate school. I do have a BSW. I got my bachelor's in social work, and then now I'm getting my master's in social work, but I'm going the advanced standard route. That's a little bit of background story here. So if you are a social worker, if you are a social work student, if you are social work adjacent, you may know about the NASW. I currently intern with one of the largest chapters, if not the largest chapter. I haven't checked the stats today, but I do believe that we are either the largest or second largest chapter, but I do intern with the NASW, New Jersey chapter. So that's a backstory. I went to school originally for pre-med. I went to school, got another degree in social work, and here we are. I am aspiring to get my master's in social work. I should be done in May. So this information that I'm giving you is based on research, and it's also based on some personal experience. I am gonna have to put my glasses here in a few because I need my glasses to read. So let me grab my glasses and we're gonna jump into the notes, the facts, the myths, and everything in between. So guys, if you are ready to hear about social work as a profession and everything else, I'm back and I have my glasses. I went to get them and we are going to dive right into this. If you have any questions about the information that is provided and you don't find a resource in the link, you can feel free to email me or reach out to me on Instagram via my DMs, and I will answer to the best of my ability. Again, this is a disclaimer. I am a social work student. I currently intern with the National Association of Social Work, New Jersey chapter, but I am not at all saying that this is all the information or the best information. But I do know that a lot of people have been asking me these questions, so I felt like creating this video, giving you guys all the information here, will be what I should do instead of answering a million questions. So let's get right into it. What is social work? By definition, based on the National Association of Social work is the professional activity of helping individuals Families, groups, or communities enhance or restore their capacity for social functioning or creating societal conditions favorable to that goal. In layman's terms, in Razia's terms, this is what social work is. Social work is a profession that is committed to helping individuals, families, and community groups function the best way that they can. A social worker's role is to help you, your family, or your community function at maximum capacity, the best way that you can. So if you know a social worker, they're oftentimes giving you the resources needed and helping you be the best you, helping your family be the best you, helping your communities be the best they can be. That's that. That is what social work is. In order to be deemed a social worker, you need to have a degree. Social work is like a profession that you have to go to school for. I know there's a lot of people who confuse social work, case managers, psychotherapists, psychologists, mental health counselors, and all of that. It's not the same thing. In order to be titled a social worker, you either have to hold a bachelor's degree in social work, a master's degree in social work, or a doctorate level or PhD level degree in social work. Oftentimes, BSWs is the entry level, but in order to get a MSW, you don't need a BSW. You can have a bachelor's in anything and go to school to get your master's in social work. You can have that bachelor's in arts. You can have a bachelor in history. You can have a bachelor's in whatever you have and go get your master's. But in order to get a doctorate of social work, you do need to have a master's. That is a requirement. Okay? Some of the questions that I get is, what are the jobs that I can have as a social worker? Well, after you went to school and did all of that, got your degree, worked hard, you then sit for a licensure as a bachelor level social worker in some states, master's level social workers in all states, with the exception of Chicago. I think they changed it last week. And that's it. So you do have to sit for licensure as a LMSW, LCSW. That is for sure. If you have a bachelor's and you want to get licensed in your state, if your state requires it, then I think it's like a LBSW or a CSW. So yes, guys, I think I was talking about licensure. That as a social worker, you need to have a degree to be a social worker or to be deemed with the title designation of social worker. You don't necessarily need a degree to do a lot of the work that some social workers do, but to have the title, like if you want to put the title somewhere, you do need a degree. And you need the degree from an accredited school. That's another thing. A lot of people don't know this, but in order to be deemed a social worker and to sit for licensure, the school that you graduated from has to be accredited by the Council of Social Work Education, the CSWE. That is where we get all of our accreditation from. So if you see a school and it doesn't have that accreditation, or it's pending, or it's in review, that may not be the institution or the university or the school to go to just yet, because you do have to make sure that you are accredited if you do want to sit for your licensure. So I discussed licensure. So there is, in my state of New York, you can have a LMSW, a LCSW, or a LCSWR, and that R just signifies that you have had additional training in psychotherapy, and it's a privilege. So you have to do additional training if you want that R. And if you have an LMSW, you just need to have a graduate level degree. And then once you have an LMSW, you can get clinical supervision. I think it's 3,000 hours in my state. And then once you have the clinical supervision, you take a test from the ASVAB, ASWB. You take that exam, it's the licensure exam, you pass it, you are now a licensed social worker. So it's like the board. Some of the jobs that social workers hold, you can find social workers doing administrative duties and management duties, advocacy and community organizing, aging or geriatrics, developmental disabilities. You can find them in the healthcare system. You can find them holding jobs in the international social work sector. Social workers can hold jobs in the justice and correction sector, mental health and clinical social work, mental health and substance abuse, occupational and employee assistance programs, policy and planning, politics, public welfare, research, and school social work. So this information I got from the NASW website. I will link it down below, but these are some of the jobs, like the categories of jobs that you can do as a social worker. The salary is a medium. So in the state of New York, the medium is $48,000 with a MSW. Now, if you only have a BSW, it may be significantly less. I think like $12,000 less. And if you have a LMSW, after you got your licensure, your price goes up. If you get a clinical licensure, your price also goes up. And the places that you can work goes up. It changes. So if you have a licensure, you can work in different places with different titles and designations. So of course your salary will increase. I talked about the licensure. So in social work, there are 3 categories. So the umbrella is social work. It is a helping profession. But then there are 3 categories: micro, macro, and meso. It's actually the other way around: micro, meso, and macro. And the differences in that is just who you work with, what you are trying to do, what your job usually entails, and the reach that you have, right? I personally prefer macro social work. I am 1 in probably 500. In my program, I can count on my hands how many people are on the macro track. A lot of people are on the clinical track, and the clinical track falls under micro. So if you want to do clinical things, if you want to open a private practice, if you want to do any form of therapy, you will be going into micro tracks. So basically, micro deals with individuals, families, groups, and relationships. They focus on inter and intrapersonal relationships, and we also can say that they are the ones that deal with a contained system. So micro, although a larger amount of social workers fall under that category, the system is contained to individuals, families, and relationships. Then we have meso, which is like the middle of the 2, and meso social work deals with neighborhoods, schools, local organizations, communities, groups of people, groups of communities, and it's basically known as the medium system. So if someone is doing meso work, you'll oftentimes see them doing things like they might work for a school district, they might work for they might work for like your local Red Cross or your local social services. That is all like meso stuff. And then macro is healthcare systems, policy, law, legislation, political subsystems, international social work, systematic issues, and it's basically also known as the large systems. And macro social workers, they typically do not work with individuals or people. They're working with policies, research, legislation. They're doing things that are on a larger scale. So micro deals with individuals, meso deals with like groups, and then macro deals with like the community at large, like systematic problems at large. So if you are in meso social work and you're dealing with homelessness within your local community and just your local community, that's meso. But let's say that you realize that homelessness is your niche and you're now doing research and you're writing interventions and all of that on a larger scale that can be implemented nationally. That is macro. A lot of people really go into social work only thinking about the clinical aspect of it. And I think that's because that's what's showcased, that's what's known, that's what's discussed a lot, that's what's talked about. But social work is a very broad field. When I say social work is broad, it's very broad. It is really not limited to just what you can conceive in your mind. I know for me personally, when I made the decision to become a social worker and to go to school for social work, it was because I was trying to figure out which way I wanted to go. I wanted to go into legislation and policy making. And I didn't know if I should go to school for like political science. But then when I started researching about social work and seeing how broad and diverse it is and how I was ill-informed about what social workers do, I realized that it was what I needed to do. So I do have some information that I'm pulling up on my phone to share with you guys, because I feel like I want to give you guys as much information in this video so you guys don't have to come back. This information is about licensure in the state of New York. So in order to get an LMSW and become a licensed master social worker in the state of New York, you have to be of good moral character as determined by the department, at least 21 years of age, meet educational requirements, which just have your graduate degree in social work, MSW degree, meet examination requirements, and complete coursework or training in the identification and reporting of child abuse offered by the New York State approved provider. So in New York State, you have to get fingerprinted and you have to take a course, I believe, because as social workers, we are mandated reporters for child abuse and child neglect and all that jazz. So you have to do these things. And once you complete that application, they give you the permission to sit for the exam. And once you sit for the exam, you then can take your exam. You have to pass. Once you pass it, you get a little thing that says you pass right there on the spot, and you are now a LMSW. Straight out of graduate school, you will see people put MSW behind their names because they're just a master's level social worker. And then in order to get your clinical license, which is the LCSW, you have to have all of those requirements that I stated before, but you also have to have 12 semester hours of clinical coursework. So if you know that you want to go into clinical practice and you go to a school that doesn't have designated tracks, make sure that you have those clinical hours, because I know this is the state of New York, but I believe that this is the rule in multiple states, with the exception of Chicago, because I don't know what they're doing with their licensure right now, because like I said, to become a licensed master social worker in Chicago, you don't need to sit for the board exam. And then you need to have 3 years of post-MSW supervised experience in diagnosis, psychotherapy, and assessment-based treatment planning acceptable by the department. And then you're able to sit for this exam. You do the same things that you did for your LMSW, and then you sit for this exam. So to have an LCSW, you do need an LMSW first and foremost. And then for the R, you just have to be licensed and a clinical social worker, and then you can take the you have to be licensed and currently registered in New York State, meet professional work experience and the privilege, and file an application for the privilege and other forms indicated along with the appropriate fee. And then once you get that, you can put the R behind your LCSW. So I wanted to share that with you because I feel like it's really important to know going into this field, if you are considering it, that school does not stop. Learning does not stop. As social workers, we have to renew our license. And how we do that is by taking continuing educations. So once you get a license, you are now required to take continuing education classes. I know in some states it's biannually. Other states, I think it's every 3 years. The bottom line is that you'll need like 40 hours when it's time for you to renew your license in most states in the United States of America. So I say all this to say that this is just not a profession where you're coming to do therapy and to be a clinician. That is part of it, but social work is really broad, and there's so much that you can do with this degree. But going to school and getting the degree is just one part of the puzzle. And there are people who stop at their MSW because it fulfills the requirements that they have for their personal and professional goals. But if your goals need you to continue on, you will have to do more things. You will have to test. You will have to do continuing educations. You will have to do certain things to maintain the title. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you guys right before we leave is this. I wanted to share about the macro, meso, and micro social work because this is something that people ask me a lot. So let me just give you a little bit of information, and I'll provide this link down below. Micro social work is among the most common type of social work practice and is often how most people imagine social workers providing service. In macro social work, the social worker engages with individuals and families to resolve interpersonal and intrapersonal problems. And some of the work that they can do is like counseling centers, hospitals as hospital social workers, social service agencies, just to help like individuals find housing, and family therapy and couples therapy. Meso social work is the practice that deals with small to medium-sized groups such as neighborhoods, schools, and other local organizations. And some of the work that you can see them doing is community organizing, and they're focused on the institutional or cultural changes versus that individual intra or interpersonal change. And then macro social work involves intervening in a large high-level Macro social work involves intervening in large high-level societal systems. Examples of macro social work includes lobbying to change a healthcare law, organizing a statewide activist group, or advocating for large-scale social policy changes. So macro practice is often known as like the hidden part of social work. So what you do on a macro level trickles all the way down to the micro level so that those individuals that need it the most get it. So I do hope that this video was of interest and of good information for you guys, and that it was able to broaden what you know about social work, and it gave you just a little bit of insight if you are considering social work. Until next time, can't wait to see you back on this channel. If you have any topics that you would like me to cover, especially for social work, drop them down below. Also leave me a heart, a comment, a word of encouragement, and a thumbs up. Until next time, peace.